I'm from Warner's Nurseries. We are the biggest plant supplier to the garden show, about 7 semis. And these are all of our beautiful plants here. So this is Silver Gilt. This is the prestigious People's Choice Award, and designed by the great landscape designer, Mr. Andrew Stark, and I'm throwing over to you.
What a wonderful introduction. Thanks everyone coming, thanks for voting, thanks for following, all of that. So what we're going to do, Andy and I, we're going to do a bit of a chat about sort of the basic plants and the pots and things, and then we'll do some questions at the end. Cool with that?
Excellent.
Okay, so this garden's called Urban Luxe, and it's my take on a modern or contemporary Italian garden. So what does that mean and what have I done? Well, I've combined the classical elements like the pots, the clipped trees, the beautiful citrus plants, and the water running through the garden. They're the classical parts. So I've mixed in those with classical elements such as the really streamlined sort of modern-like paving, the beautiful furniture, and sort of the techniques for clipping some of these trees. So I've fused those together and we've made Urban Luxe.
Let's talk about everyone's favourite is the flowering perennials. You started off. Okay, I'll go. So, Andrew, well, to start with, Andrew and I have been talking about doing this garden, I think, for about 15 years. So nothing happens quickly with us. And one of the things Andrew wanted to use in the garden was some beautiful flowering perennials. And Andrew said to me, we're going for pink. Pink is the new white. So Andrew and I, about this time last year, we went on a road trip together and we went to a few other perennial growers and we saw what was in flower this time of year. And we were talking to other growers and other plant breeders, and we wanted something new and different, and obviously, you know, flowering well. So we selected a large group of perennials.
I think it's about 50 different type of perennials, and I said to Andrew, I said, I don't want to just sort of do the perennials that sort of everyone does, everyone knows and uses every year at the shows. I want to use something that's new, different, exciting, something to give a bit of a thrill. So there's a few really good examples through there, which we'll go through later on. So we bought about 500 plants, didn't we?
Yeah, I think it was about 500 plants.
About 500.
So they came back to our large nursery, and
Yeah.
And we immediately potted them into larger pot sizes, into like big 25 centimetre pots.
And 30 centimetre pots. So we had picked them out because they were new, different, interesting, and in the colour scheme, but also because they were going to hopefully flower for this week of the show. So we'll get to that. So we had to obviously streamline everything, prune, water, fertilise everything individually, all the different species, to get them to flower for this 1 week. So that's another whole story which we'll go through. Over to you, Andy.
So with the timing of the pruning, we were, you know, especially about 6 weeks ago, we're going, oh, will we cut them back? Won't we cut them back? And every single different type of perennial, they all have different growth rates. So it's really tricky. So there's a lot of judging. Andrew's ringing me up every second day, and I nearly had to block him.
It was every
really
day.
Had to block you every day,
and
I really had to block you.
I'm going to my wife. I'm going to ring Andy Smith again. No, don't ring him. I've already texted him 3 times today. But we really had to get everything flowering perfectly for this 1 week, and it depended on the weather. We had those stinking hot days. We had a 45-degree day in there. Then we had about a week of just cloud and 15s, and nothing's getting in the flower, nothing's coming in the bud. So I'm dying of stress. So we'd have these chats about what to prune, how to prune it, how far we prune it back, how much food we give it, how much water we give it, how much sun we give it to get it right. And we've done it. Out of the sort of 50 different plants, I think we've got 48 or 9 in full flower. There's a couple that didn't quite work. They're hiding up the back, but
we stuffed up a couple.
Oh, but they'll be awesome for.
But they're going to be. They'll look unreal in 3 weeks' time.
Be a lovely Easter garden display, won't it?
So when we're doing the pruning, the timing of the pruning, we're also taking cuttings. So a lot of these are new perennials. So we're in our beautiful large production nursery. We also lucky to have a fantastic propagation facility. So we propagate our own plants. So we're taking cuttings. So we will you know, we won't, nothing happens quickly. Plants take a while to grow. So later in spring, we'll have some of these new varieties available then, because we've just been, you know, pruning and taking cuttings over the last 6 weeks.
And there's so much demand for these sort of 4 or 5 spectacular plants here. So they'll be available mid-late spring into summer. And obviously I'm going to use a lot of these in some of my new projects that I'm cultivating at the minute. So stay tuned for those.
Yep, so all of our plants, we sell to the best independent garden centres around Australia. And also, you know, to, you know, landscapers and landscape contractors like Andrew, a lot of plants through businesses like Andrew's. Let's talk about your beautiful lemons.
Okay, so this is an Italian themed garden. So many Italian gardens have citrus, don't they? They have citrus in pots, they have citrus hedges, they have espalier citrus. This is new, this is my invention. This is a miniature lemon. So the plant, that's a full-size plant. There's 4 of them. This is probably the best one, put it right at the front for you to enjoy. So it's called Lemonicious, and it's like a Maya lemon. So it's got the thin skin, it's got the sweet juice inside. Full size, and it will have about 40 or 50 fruit on it at any one time. So there is fruit all through here. It probably needs another couple of months until it's yellow and mature. But this is the way, as Andy says, this is the future of citrus. Miniature citrus, ideal for pots, patios, courtyards, rooftops, anything like that. So that's full size, heaps of big size fruit every day of the year. It's going to have fruit on it every day of the year, and it's called Lemonicious.
Yeah, well, I think compact lemons are definitely the future of lemons. At my old house, I had a lemon tree that was probably about 4.5 meters tall. It was covered in gall wasp. It was covered in citrus leaf miner. All the lemons were up too high anyway, really hard to get. And when you get old like Andrew, you're not allowed to go up ladders and pick them anyway. So to have something like a Lemonicious in a pot, mine at home's in about that size pot, maybe about a metre diameter. And I have it in my outdoor entertaining area just sitting there. I reckon I pick lemons off it nearly all year round. And once in a while, especially if we had some rain, I'll spray it with some pest oil. No gall wasp, no citrus leaf miner. Because it's right there, it's easy to control those things, not like, you know, 4.5 metre tree.
So there's also, hiding in the back of the garden, in the back corner, there's a dwarf fig called Figalicious. So I've got that at home. I've got Figalicious in one of these green pots at my house, that big green pot there. And I've got one plant, and it's about 1 metre wide, and it's about 50 or 60 centimetres high, and again it's got 30 or 40 fruit on it all through summer, full-size fruit. So it's very similar to the dimensions and proportions as Lemonicious, but it's obviously a fig. So that's another standout future fig, isn't it?
Yeah, compact. It's all compact edibles are huge for us. It's not just you know, lemons and the Figalicious, Lemonicious and Figalicious.
There's also a lime too.
We do a lime. We do a courtyard lime. That's great too for in your entertaining area when you're having a Corona or something. Just put a little bit in your Corona. It's really nice.
Gin and tonic.
And also we do a compact olive called Garden Harvest. We can have we normally clip them into balls like this, an olive, and they can get covered in olives too. And you can be picking your olives just in a ball like that. Look amazing. And we do a lot of baby bay, Laurus nobilis, like the bay tree, like the bay leaf you use in your spaghetti bolognese. We do them as compact balls as well too.
I use the compact bay trees as topiary, as again a substitute for English box. I use them in pots, full sun, coastal gardens, and in perennial gardens as punctuation points, like groups of 3s and groups of 5. So again, the dwarf bay is unreal.
While we're talking about balls,
yep.
olive balls, what about we talk about the topiary balls in your garden?
Okay, so on this lower level here where the blue gardens are, and they're all the way around the lower margins, I've used something different for a change, and it's very interesting. So I'm sick to death of English box and its diseases and its blight and all the carry-on and the spraying. So I've pulled out just about all the English box and all the gardens I've ever planted. And we're using things like the Japanese box, which is greener, faster growing and much hardier. But the other exciting plant is over here, Sasanqua camellias. So it's a really tight-knit camellia, really dark green foliage, and it's got that really luscious and sort of expensive look. But it's got the advantage of having flowers nowish through into winter. Sometimes the flowers are lightly fragrant too. And you've got that dark green look, like English box, but as I said, faster growing, very few diseases, nice and compact. And you've got colour in the autumn when most plants are sort of winding down.
Yeah, Camellia sasanquas. So we don't tend to do them with Camellia japonicas. We do it with sasanquas because they have got that smaller leaf and they clip up a lot better. But we always grow when we grow our topiary, formal topiary clip balls, like the Camellia sasanquas here. We'll do them in 3 different pot sizes, like in the garden here, because designers like to use them in different configurations, and so we always do 3 different sizes. In the smaller pot size, we might grow 500 in the smaller pot size of each, and then more in the next 2 bigger sizes as well. We do a lot of other topiary balls, a lot of clipped Westringia balls. You might see them in some of the gardens here, and clipped Coria alba balls and clipped Teucrium balls, and they all go to the big
coastal gardens
down on the peninsula where you do a lot of work too. So in those Westringias, we do 2 types of Westringia, and in 30 centimetre pots we might grow 500 of that type and 500 of that type, and we trim them with a German ball trimmer, German ball trimmer.
It's a machine. It's a machine.
It is a machine. So and this ball trimmer is on a big frame, about that wide. And our nursery is immaculate. We don't like weeds, we don't like mud. It's about 60 acres, and we have lovely straight rows on all of our plant stock. But that's how we move the frame with the trimmer on it along the row, and this is how fast it goes. It goes a bit like this. That's how fast it goes. So it saves our staff from having to bend over OH&S, RSI and all those type of things by having them trim all day by using a machine.
And let me say, the ball trim is awesome because every ball is identical. There's uniformity across the whole thing. That's in each size. So before the ball trimmer, everything would be hand cut, and not necessarily by the most experienced trimmers.
No, quite often some of our staff into squares. And
yeah, I'd get a delivery of 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50. Some would be round, some would be like a donut, some would be like a pancake, some would be pyramids, cubes, flat-sided, flat tops.
Not with the German ball trimmer.
That's right, so I'd have to hide all the funny ones at the back and then, wait for them to grow. The ball trimmer makes them just absolutely perfect.
It's worth about $40,000 too, so if you're thinking about getting one. But you can't use it in the home garden. It has to be in a production nursery. Let's talk about our beautiful hydrangeas.
Okay, so this garden we've got 2 different cultivars of hydrangeas. We'll talk about the ones you can see easy, which is in these green pots, the 4 green pots on the outside of the garden. So this is a panicle hydrangea. So this is something I've been using a lot, pushing a lot, using a lot in gardens. The reason why is it flowers now, well, it actually flowers from about January all through the end of summer, into autumn and just into the beginning of winter, and it will tolerate the full sun if it's irrigated or hand watered thoroughly. This one here is called Mojito. It's greeny white, and then it's going to fade to a soft pink in probably about 6 or 8 weeks, so that's a ripper. And then at the back here, if you can see at the back here in this other green pot, I've got Hydrangea paniculata Candlelight. That's a recent release. That's a really good plant. I use a lot of those. It's got a nice red stem. It's got big florets, which are the individual flowers, a little bit bigger than a mojito, and it's starting to turn pink already, and in another 6 or 8 weeks it goes full iridescent sort of lolly musk pink, so it's an absolute standout. I've got that in full sun at home, and it's a really, really good plant.
Yep, so these are paniculata varieties. They're very different to normal hydrangea macrophyllus. And there's also another variety on the wedding garden down there called Sunday Phrase. That goes quite pink. It's a little. They're all slightly different. And
they're all slightly different. But like, if you want a greeny one that flowers on every branch tip, the mojito is the winner. And if you want something a little bit more stronger and flamboyant with a big flower head that's pink, Candlelight's the way to go.
So we cut them back at Christmas time. At Christmas time to get them flowering this time of year for garden centre sales through autumn, and also to look fantastic at the garden show. But you can't do that with a normal hydrangea macrophylla. If you cut them back at Christmas time, they're not going to flower it again. We're Australia's biggest hydrangea grower. Those hydrangea macrophyllus, we grow about 100,000. And, you know, people say, oh, hydrangeas, gee, they're a bit old-fashioned, they're a bit of a granny plant. But I tell you, we could grow 5 times more and still sell them. Really, really popular.
I'm using hydrangeas every week, so I'm bringing them back from the old granny plant to sort of the new uber trendy plant. You can't beat the colours, particularly.
Bringing sexy back.
I am bringing sexy back with the hydrangea. All colours, blues, whites, pinks, and sort of greeny ones. I use them. If people who follow me, you'll know I love them. And the reason why is they're super hardy. They're fantastic in pots. I use them on mats under trees. I use them as hydrangea walks, you know, either side lining a pathway. So they're fabulous. So I'm going to keep on using them.
Let's talk about these brand new variety of ginkgo.
Ginkgo, okay. So I'll just walk over and show you what the ginkgo is. These trees, there's one in each perennial garden. 1, 2, 3, 4. So everybody knows ginkgo biloba, the medicine tree or the fossil tree, what is that? Dinosaur tree, all that. So that's a huge tree. It's lovely, but it's just too big for medium-sized gardens. So this is a new one called lemon lime spire, and it is completely upright. And we reckon it grows about 1.5 meters across diameter and 5 to 6 meters high. So it's super space saving. It's going to replace ornamental pears such as Capital, Cleveland Select, Red Spire and all those. It's neater, it's more delicate, it's not as aggressive growing. And so it's going to be ideal to line driveways, avenues, you know, line your driveway to block out the monstrosity 4 stories high next door, that sort of thing like that. And then obviously it's got really dark green leaves, a little bit darker than the normal ginkgo, so I'm really liking that a lot. Give it another 6 weeks and we're into proper autumn, so it's going to go completely yellow, just the one colour yellow, the whole thing all at once. So it's just going to be a completely yellow spire, and then again maybe a month later it's going to drop all those yellow leaves on the ground and create a beautiful yellow blanket. So it's an exciting tree, isn't it?
It is, and landscape designers are just starting to specify them, so it is relatively new. But definitely instead of like a capital pear or narrow, definitely along driveways, fantastic.
It'd be really good.
Let's talk about these beautiful living pergola.
Okay, living pergola. So these living pergola describes the way they've been shaped. So living pergola, or table pruned, or tabletop. So there's 16 in this garden, and I've arranged them in groups of 4 and put the green pot with the hydrangeas underneath. So I've been using these for over 10 years, mainly plane tree versions of them. These are birch. I reckon they're just super cool. The shape's unreal, very stylised clip top. And when I saw at Warner's Nursery about 14 months ago, I said, right, we have to use these. I can use them either end of the garden. We put aside 20 of them. Had 4 spares just in case there was an emergency. And over the last year, the trunks have sort of doubled in caliper, and we've spent a lot of time getting the canopy right, getting it nice and thick and chunky. So you've got some at home. I've got 10 of them at my house. I've used them in my front garden. I get the westerly sun. And I want to come home every night and see, just hydrangeas in my front garden, but it's full sun. So I've put 10 of these, 2 rows of 5, and I've grown hydrangeas all underneath now because they're in dappled light. So I've created sort of a very stylish, very attractive looking front area, but I've got the hydrangeas I want and the dappled light. So you can use them like that as well. Now you've got them around your pool.
I've got, we also grow Acer rubrum, like a Canadian maple, and I've got them growing over my pool deck. I've sort of got them growing up the back and growing across the pool deck. And I've sort of put up extra layer of that mesh with a wire and a gal pole, so they've grown over that, and now they're covering the whole pool deck. So it's a beautiful. Around a pool, no one wants to sit in the sun anymore. So to have this area under the living pergola maples, it's such a beautiful area to sit under. It's like sitting under a tree. It's that dappled light instead of sitting under a crappy Bunnings sale. They're a sponsor of the show.
They're just over there too.
They can't see it.
In-house gag now.
They're not credit. but it's just such a feature of the whole garden now. And you know, they're deciduous around a pool. A lot of people say, "Oh, God, don't put a deciduous tree around your pool," but when it drops its leaves in late autumn, we're not using the pool anyway. So, you know,
It's a quick cleanup too, isn't it? It's one or two cleanups.
One big cleanup, but a lot of people say, no, just don't want deciduous trees around my... But if you plant a lot of evergreen trees, whether they're evergreen magnolias or, you know, natives like Tristaniopsis or even gums around your pool, they're going to drop stuff in your pool all year round. Deciduous trees don't do that. They have that one big drop. So it's, you know, I think they're fantastic.
Look, I agree. Certainly evergreen magnolias and Tristaniopsis around your pool, those sort of evergreen trees that people use around their pool, they are messy. They're messy from sort of the first hot day in spring, so sort of beginning of December, or no, actually about beginning of November. And they're dropping leaves, they're dropping nuts, they're dropping berries, they're dropping seeds and all sorts of little bits and pieces out of their flowers. So it is a constant summer cleanup, whereas if you're doing a deciduous tree, they drop their leaves when no one's in the pool, no one's hanging around outside there. One or two big cleanups and you're done.
That's why I like the ginkgo as well. With that bright golden autumn colour. When that drops, it's just a golden carpet underneath, and that looks amazing too.
And it drops really quickly, so it holds its leaves and then it just dumps in a matter of about a week. So it is probably only one decent cleanup.
Yep. Let's talk about Waterhousia floribunda. Okay. So that's the screening plant along the back of the garden. Waterhousia floribunda, our nursery is heading towards 120 years old. So for our centenary, we did a book and we listed our top 100 plants. And on top of the lot, Warner's plant of the century was Waterhousia floribunda. Probably because we sold the most of them, or made the most money from them, sold the most of them. And it's really popular. That is the go-to plant for screening and hedging. A lot of people ask me, oh, you know, what's the future of landscape design in Melbourne? I'll tell you one thing about the future of landscape design. It is screening and hedging plants to block out that thing that's been built next door. That's a future. That's the future.
I'll just say one of the first things I'm asked is, can we block out the 4-storey house next door or the 3-storey apartment? We've got, you know, we need to do 4 metres or 5 metres, but can only go about a metre wide to save space. So Waterhousia floribunda Warner's Select is one of my go-to plants.
Do you want to talk about how we were talking about the trimming and...
Yep, okay, so again, Andy and I sort of got the tick of approval and we're going to go ahead with all this 14 months ago. So what we did, well, I chose to use the Waterhousia. I wanted that sort of rustic, sort of relaxed look, being an Italian garden, not too formally clipped. So we had 30 plants in their 90-litre pots. We grew them to 2.93 metres high. But what we did more importantly was we created 3 rows of trees of 10 per row to a tension wire so they wouldn't blow over in the wind. And over the last 14 months, the guys at Warner's have gone and trimmed the left and the right sides, left everything in between in the sort of the 2-dimensional part either side. And then so when they got delivered to the show garden, we could just pop them in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we orientated them all the way they were pruned in the nursery, so they've all fitted in. So that was a bit of mucking around, but it's worked out wonderfully.
Yeah, instant hedge.
Instant hedge, but still soft and fluffy. But like, you cannot really see through it, you know. And we only put it in last week, so it's an instant hedge.
Yeah, beautiful. Can you please talk about your beautiful furniture and these incredible pots?
Okay. The furniture, so again, as I said, this is my take on a classical and contemporary Italian garden. So I've chosen this absolutely spectacular streamlined furniture, Scandinavian furniture. The company is called Cane Line. If you're interested or have any questions, the man over there in the striped shirt, put your hand up, that's Luke, he's the man. He's got all the knowledge. So we chose it as well because it's really sophisticated looking, and it's colour coded to all my pots and all my paving. And then I've got this really nice little green number here, which I just think that's sort of probably going to go to my house after this. It's absolutely it's absolutely gorgeous. Just love the colour. And a lot of this stuff will be available on my website later on. Pots and planters. Well, there's a lot of pots in this garden, a bit like an Italian garden. So we'll talk about the green pots first. So there's a heap of green pots. short ones here, tall ones, another big one at the back, and obviously some more over there. So they're all original handmade pots from Provence. So think about this, they're not from a factory or a big warehouse or anything. There's a man in Provence who makes these on a potter's wheel. So he gets his clay in bulk and he's sculpting it on the potter's wheel. It's all done by hand. He puts them in the kiln and then he obviously glazes them. So they're all an individual piece of art. Underneath the pot, when you tip upside down, the man's signature's at the bottom. I think his name's Barry, to be honest. It usually says Barry as Bazar. Yeah, it's Bazoir. And the date he's made it. So they are original bits of artwork, not just a pot from a mold or mass produced. So they're pretty cool, and they're heavy too. All the grey pots, which there's 4 in this courtyard area, then obviously the 2 big Roman ones and the 2 ones at the back, they're all directly moulded off original antiques, either from Italy or from the UK. So I know a few people in the antiques trade, so they've taken moulds off their original items, and then I've had them, hand painted to match the plinths and the stone and obviously the furniture. And they're made out of marble dust and resin, so they're super durable, super heavy, and yeah, they're pretty expensive, but there's a lot of work and sort of effort going in behind those. So look forward to having some of those back in my garden. If anyone's interested in them, they're available on my website. You can buy all these pots and the green ones on my website. You can have a look. Or I can design your garden and pop them in too, so we can do that.
Perfect. So with Andrew, our nursery, Warner's Nursery, we've had a great relationship with Andrew over the years. We used to sell plants to Andrew, and his father had a retail nursery down in Mount Eliza called Crittenden's. That was like 30 or 40 years ago.
My dad had that nursery for 43 years. He was started then about 1969.
Yeah, and we were selling a lot of plants to you then before you.
Well, I wasn't born then, so yeah, my dad was.
Well, I was working. I don't know what you were doing.
Yeah. I wasn't conceived, so I wasn't around.
Tell us, so where do you do most of your landscape designs?
Well,
projects now.
I think we should do prior to the show. Where do I do my landscape designs? Don't you?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. So I'm based in the Mornington Peninsula, and all my work is on the peninsula, Flinders, Portsea, Sorrento, all the way through those suburbs, up into Toorak, obviously Malvern, Armidale, Glen Iris, Balwyn, Mont Albert, Canterbury. So I do work all through there. I travel for work, doesn't matter. I've done designs for gardens interstate. I've done designs for gardens northern Victoria. But there's been a huge amount of interest in my work from this show, so I'm designing gardens, I reckon, worldwide, and certainly interstate after this show.
Worldwide? That's
yes.
fantastic.
I've had people from California, I've had numerous people from New Zealand showing interest, so, well, I'm going everywhere.
I mean, that's also the power of the garden show. I'm sure gardens like Andrew's garden could be featured on front covers of landscape magazines anywhere in Europe too.
Yeah, I agree that the calibre is, and I'm not patting myself in the back, but the level of quality is of Chelsea Flower Show gardens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. You're not doing Chelsea Garden Show?
Yeah, I'm going for Chelsea Garden.
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
I know, we'll do it.
Okay. Will we do some questions?
Yeah, we'll do some questions.
Oh no, tell us what you were talking about before, about all these beautiful projects you've done and how you're going to put it all together.
Yeah, okay, so I have just received some really good news last week. I've got just signed on with Hardy Grant Publishers, and I've got a beautiful big coffee table, big glossy, gorgeous coffee table book coming out next year. Maybe 15 or 20 of my best gardens. There's going to be an introduction of all my interests, my design ethos, all that sort of stuff.
And me.
And Andrew, there'll be a cameo with Andrew at Warner's in one page.
Centerfold.
So that's coming out next year, and this garden, the build, and obviously the hero photographs will be one chapter in the book too. So I've got a worldwide book deal. It's going to be out of New York City. It's going to be out of London, obviously in Australia. So I think there's some pretty exciting things happening there.
Sounds awesome. Will we do a few questions now?
Let's do some questions, mate.
Is there any questions for Andrew?